High cost of living. Experts lay blame on the government. Page 8 of the Standard this morning. High cost of living. Curb tax appetite. Kenya Kwanza told. That is page 6 of the Nation. And so on and so forth. That is the conversation that we're having. The cost of living is a big conversation in the country. This, what are we calling this thing now? It's not bipartisan talks.
It's national
dialogue team that's meeting at Bomas of Kenya has dealt with their main pressing issues. Now they've come to our pressing issue, cost of living.
Took a while, but we're here.
Yeah, now they're here. Now they're dealing with our pressing issue, our cost of living. They're inviting experts to come and talk to them about the cost of living. I don't know experts on cost of living or the expert on cost or the expert of living. But experts, nonetheless, are appearing before them. This morning they're quoting the controller of budget who appeared before them yesterday. So what's going to happen? Are we actually going to see the cost of living come down? And what is this that needs to happen to bring the cost of living down? A member of the Azimio Economic Council, the chair of the Azimio Women's League, and very many other things, Dr. Caroline Karugu is our guest this morning. Karibu sana daktari.
Asante, thank you very much.
Have you been here this year?
Matter of fact, I haven't been here or anywhere else the whole of this year, and I think half of last year. Because we were dealing with what we were dealing with. And we are here now. Let me first apologize that I didn't bring the Nyeri coffee that I usually bring to you. Because when I used to bring to you Nyeri coffee, the farmers were paid at 120 shillings. You would be surprised that today the farmers are being paid at about 50 shillings. What? 50 to 55 shillings.
Why?
Why? Because of, I think, many reasons. We have heard the government saying that the deputy president is now in charge of coffee, and we have seen him globetrotting and looking for market for coffee. But I think the problem around the coffee sector is more than globetrotting, and is more than what perhaps this government is doing.
It's cartels.
Yes, we have heard of the cartels. But really, it's a mix of issues, from production to quality to the clones of coffee to market and the brokers in between. And it's unfortunate that we have lost the gains that CS Munya had given to the farmers, and even cushioning that had been given to farmers. So anyway, this is to apologize that I didn't bring some nice medium roast dark coffee from Nyeri, but Karugu, I will endeavor.
Dr. Karugu, you are a politician.
I will endeavor to do that next time.
I don't see how, if the price of coffee is due 35 bob to the farmer and all, I don't see the connection between that and you bringing coffee.
Well, if it is not available,
I just don't,
because the last time
Ukraine,
soon we will be blaming Hamas for everything. I hope you know that.
You see the connection?
I see the connection.
Where is that connection?
You see, haven't you seen?
City, give us the day's
No. You see, if the coffee is not there where we used to purchase it, then it cannot be brought to studio.
Is it being farmed?
It is also has been downscaled in terms of farming.
Being farmed. There are farmers who have coffee berries on their farms, and they're staring at those berries and wondering what on earth they're going to do with them.
Precisely, and that goes for macadamia and many other products. So,
cost of living. Today's proverb, City.
Okay, our proverbs for this week are from the Republic of Burundi. In French, what would you say? Do Republique du
Burundi.
Like that. Huh?
Wait.
Very good. A night without roosters still ends. The cock-a-doodle-doo thing, as we said.
A night without roosters still ends.
Still ends.
Dr. Karugu, what's your interpretation of this?
A night without roosters still ends, right? That a night without the rooster is supposed to wake you up.
That's a general idea, yes.
It will. The night will still come to an end. You will still wake up.
The rooster is an alarm clock of sorts. Yes,
yes, that even without the alarm clock, the day will still begin, whether you wake up or not.
Yes.
Even if you don't have those things that wake you up, you will still wake up to the realities.
It will happen.
It will happen.
Okay. cost of living will still come down.
I wish I was that. I would say that. You know, when I looked at your e-shot when you sent it to me, and it says cost of living, is there a silver bullet? And I said, I wouldn't use the word silver bullet, because silver bullet suggests some magical, something that magically will happen to bring down the cost of living. Yeah. No, bringing down the cost of living will need deliberate action. It would need the Kenya Kwanza government to climb down the ivory tower and high-handed, arrogant statements that we have had them make and decide that we are going to put our people first and we are going to bring down the cost of living. It requires them to get down the high horse. So there's nothing magical. There's no silver bullet to bringing down the cost of living. It has to be a deliberate, well-orchestrated, well-thought-out action. For instance, I will ask you, is the cost of living an issue of income or an issue of cost of goods? Because I think...
Are goods more expensive? Is that what you're asking?
Now, is it because
our income is dwindling?
Because I've had many solutions, especially in these media houses. The cost of living is high because unga is high. Because petrol fuel has gone high. And I come from the school of thought that says there has to be a very positive correlation between the incomes of Kenyans and the cost of basic essential items. There has to be a positive correlation between the cost of living and the incomes, the minimum wages of Kenyans.
Walk us through your thinking.
Let me walk you through a little bit more. If, for instance, the basic minimum wage for Kenyans was 1 million shillings, if I'm just going to put it out there, and pump prices were even at 1,000 shillings per litre, and a packet of unga was at 500 shillings, would Kenyans still feel it the way they feel it today? No. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So is the problem that we are addressing an income problem, or is it the issue of the cost of basic items? So I put it to you that the cost of living and the incomes of Kenyans are misaligned. There is a negative correlation of those two variables.
Okay. What if you had a situation where the Kenyan, instead of earning 1 million, minimum wage is 200 shillings?
Yes.
But production in this country is at an abundance, so unga costs 5 shillings. Would then not the person who earns this 200 shillings be able to afford his unga without too much of a fuss?
He would.
There's this little detail. I keep hearing, there's a word I hear from people who study economics called inflation, okay? Where they say, goods view, money chasing it, so the value keeps... these economic things happen. But if we start with the fundamentals, do we actually have enough food in this country to feed Kenyans? And if we do, why does it cost what it costs? And can that cost be reduced? Because if it is reduced, then even this pay that we consider to be menial might be able to afford people a living, wouldn't you say?
You see, income is a derivative, right, of some economic activity. It is presumed, isn't it? So when you speak production will, the high producing nation will automatically yield higher incomes. Yeah. No? Yes or no?
Yes,
okay. Yes, won't it?
It will.
So for a country like ours, where industries are closing every day, where we have a 60% default rate for SMEs in this country, a country that has a non-performing loan book of 576 billion.
How much again?
576 billion. That was the last CBK report. Non-performing loans. So what our business, we are not producing. We are pretty much moving this nation to nothing but being a consumer nation. And that's extremely dangerous, especially when you look at our balance of trade. When you look at the fact that we are net importers. So, number one, what are we doing in the manufacturing sector and for our businesses? Because those are the ones that then yield production and bring up incomes. Now, there's this notion in this country that I would like to disabuse, that government is the greatest employer. You see, the role of government for advanced economies is not to employ people. You heard the Auditor General yesterday saying that in this country, especially in our counties, all counties apart from 5 are unable to keep to the limit that is prescribed by the PFM Act of 35% employment. Many of them are at 45. Those 5 counties, she said, were Turkana, Samburu, Tana River, I think Kwale and Mandera. All the other counties have taken the role of employing people. Instead of governors investing in cottage industries, manufacturing, and then jobs are taken up by private sector. The creation of job opportunities is taken up by private sector. We have this notion that the government has to employ people. So we have people in school going for all manner of courses. You know, I'm told there's a very famous course called procurement something. Everybody wants to have a diploma, have a certificate in procurement so you can go and become a procurement officer and begin to rail in kickbacks. So the role of government is not
create that environment.
Is not to employ directly, but to create an enabling environment.
We've heard people say that.
For employment. Yeah.
The things you've said.
Yes.
Which we've heard them actually.
I'm sure. Kenya is a very good talking nation.
I want to ask the question, Dr. Karugu.
Yeah.
So basically, from what your argument is this morning,
Yes.
is our problem
Yes.
is we are not productive.
We are not a production.
And therefore,
productive nation.
we are not earning
Yes.
as we should.
Yes.
And therefore, we are then unable to afford goods as they are.
Precisely. Which is first layer
What is
of
it
problems.
that affected our productivity? Why are we not productive?
We are not productive because on one side, we are killing our businesses through high taxation regimes. And one question that perhaps we should all be asking is that what is the taxation strategy of this country? Because any nation must look at itself and say 60 years down the line, surely there's got to be a strategy to running this gig, no? There's got to be a strategy. Now we are 60 years into this. So what taxation stance should we take? And of course, leaving a small, variation on unexpected things like the El Nino that did not happen or other unexpected.
Or COVID.
Or COVID,
Yep.
So, but we should have a coherent tax
policy.
strategy that now yields to policies. What is that in this nation? Because what we have been treated to over the years has been more knee-jerk, it's been more reactive that this is happening, so let's quickly tax this. People look like they're drinking too much, let's tax them. These people look like they're buying big cars, too many people buying, let's tax cars. It looks like a cigarette, let's tax. So,
we have many young kids on TikTok.
Let's tax them, and I want to thank you guys, the Fourth Estate, because I think you're the guys running government. You also make noise, a flying president. Oh, no, I'm going to cut back on my flying expenses. So, but what is really the strategy? What are we working on? And it's a question that I feel has got to be addressed in the short to medium term.
Right.
Because we have seen the Finance Act of 2023. I mean, we were everywhere. We as Azimio issued statements. Everybody spoke. People in the village spoke and they said, already, we are so squeezed and constrained on paying for health services that are unavailable, on paying for school fees, for our children, school fees, for education that is not education that can take anybody anywhere, But we are squeezed, and they continued, because Parliament has been bought off, they continued to pass the finance bill, now the Act of 2023.
Dr. Karugu,
yes.
Even as you say this, it's clear that Kenyans are biting, the bullet right here.
Yes.
on this particular issue of the cost of living. It doesn't matter where you look, that because then you see rising prices of fuel, you see rising prices of basic commodities and all of that. Kenyans are a lot more strained than they were even just 12 calendar months ago.
Right.
Just progresses.
Right.
From this national dialogue, then, it would appear as though there is the belief that there is an answer or there is a solution to this. But we're not seeming to hear exactly what that solution is.
All right.
So what is it? What is it that we can apply that's going to get us at this place then when it comes down?
Fantastic. Now, you you mentioned Kenyans have bitten the bullet, and I remember yesterday one of the people in Bomas, because I was at Bomas, saying that Kenya Kwanza has bitten the bullet. And I was short of telling them, if Kenya Kwanza thinks that they have bitten the bullet, then they ain't seen nothing yet, because the bomb is coming for this nation. So for Kenyans are enduring. Some voted for this government, some did not vote for but all of us, I think, were caught unawares at just the audacity of lies and upgrading those lies at every public platform. I mean, that audacity is what has hit Kenyans. Kenyans are quiet, just thinking, wow, just how much courage can you have? So to answer you on the issue of, is there perhaps a silver lining? Do we have solutions? Now, I have been part of this dialogue team from the Azimio side, really from the back office. We also call it, just like you guys here, a situation room, where we process the position papers, what are the agendas, feed in the numbers into the agendas. And one of the key agendas for Azimio has been cost of living. It has been cost of living. Then it was our agenda item 1. It remains our agenda item 1. And I put it to you that if there is no congruence of thought in Bomas with regards to what Azimio, and I will take you through what Azimio is recommending, and perhaps what Kenya Kwanza is recommending, Azimio will walk out. Azimio will call off those talks. We have no business being in Bomas if, for instance, the issue of cost of living is not addressed.
And by congruence, what do you mean?
That
if they don't take your ideas?
No, because there is no superior idea. First of all, you must understand that these people have already gone on public platform promising very many things, and they find it hard to eat those words that that already are out there. And perhaps that is one of the things that Kenya Kwanza government is suffering from. Their words have been very hard, that chewing them is now looking impossible. That's why they say keep your words soft, so that when you have to swallow them, they don't choke you, So some of the things that they have been saying are really not feasible. So they have to claw back on a lot of those things. So we're saying we have ideas. And let me thank the principles of Azimio, because Azimio would have easily looked at it politically. In fact, there's some politically apt people who are telling us, you have no business giving solutions to the government. You're not government consultants. Why is Azimio helping this government run whatever, let them go with. But as our principles are true patriots and statesmen and women. And they have said, for all it's worth, even if it's the last thing that Azimio does, we will put our proposals on the table, because that is the reason why people went to the streets.
So what are the solutions, Dr. Karugu?
So some of the solutions that we are having as Azimio, for instance, is number 1, understand the problem in Kenya, which is an income problem, which we have already dealt with. Number 2, cut back on your budget. See, every year we are running on a 760 billion deficit budget currently. Last year it was 768 billion. So every year we are planning to fail.
Yeah.
Right? It's planning to use money that you don't have.
Yeah.
And then imagining that there shall be some magic or some silver bullet, to use your word, to help you out of the situation. So number 1, cut back this year's budget by 500 billion. Next year's budget by 500 billion. And then from there, adopt what is called a balanced budget. It's very simple. By the way, it's just big linguistics and semantics. But a balanced budget means what? Live within your means. Look at your revenues. Look at what are, for instance, every year we budget. and then we issue supplementary budgets, and then we have the actual budget at the end of the year. These are the revenues that realistically...
Which is budget plus 10.
Precisely.
Okay.
Precisely, So let us look at our actuals and say, this is just how much money we can raise right now. If we raise more, congratulations, we'll have raised more. And do our expenditure based on that. And it is not hard. This country currently is, and the government is operating like we are a flourishing economy with all the macros working and our cost of living, and Wananchi is happy. And that is why we are flying from country to country, guzzlers, refurbishing offices, getting offices for spouses and for daughters and sons, because we are not alive to the fact that this economy is ailing. So number two...
We don't have our pulse. Let's take a break first.
Okay.
Break first.
Spice.
Dr. Caroline Karugu, the member of the Azimio Economic Council. Azimio solutions or proposed solutions to the high cost of living issue. One of them you've said is, number one, let's identify the problem. We have an income problem. Once we're in agreement that shida yetu ni malaria, then let's go into, okay, so how do we treat this malaria? And you're saying number two is cut back on expenditure. Immediately cut back this budget from 3.6 trillion shillings by 500 billion shillings. And then progressively cut back budget until you get to a balanced budget.
Right.
Okay. And then number three?
Number three, stop this borrowing spree.
Stop borrowing.
Just stop it. Really.
Okay.
Just stop it. And if you don't, the market will stop you. And already the indications are out there. On 28th of September, 2023, the government issued, did a tap sale on two bonds, FXD1, stroke 2023, 002, FXD1, stroke 2016, 10, seeking to raise 15 billion from the market. You know what happened? You know how much they raised?
We're waiting for you to tell us.
Good. They raised only 3.4 billion. Performance-wise, that is a 23% performance.
Where?
As if that is not enough. This is a very gung-ho government. They went in the following month on 16th of October, reopened two bonds, FXD1, 2023, 002, and 005. Right? Wanting to raise 35 billion. You know how much they raised?
Nope.
12 billion. What is the market telling you? The market is telling you,
We don't trust you.
we don't trust you. We are not entirely sure you'll pay us back this money. We are not sure where this government will be in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years. We cannot trust our money with you in the long term. But that is the 2 year, and by the 2 year, 5 year bonds in the market are pretty short term. The shortest term are the bills, the 91-day, the 182, and 364-day treasury bills. You know what's happening there? They are 100% oversubscribed. So what is the market telling you? And at very high interest rates. That last week, I think the rates for the 91-day was about 17.12, and then for the 182 was about 17.13 thereabouts, and for the 364 about 17 point. So those are very high interest rates, right? But people are saying to you, and the market is saying to you, we can give you, government of Kenya, our money, but let's do this thing of ours,
On
this
a short
relationship,
term.
on a 90-day, 180-day. After
It's a
that,
hustler fund kind of
after that,
thing.
after that, you pay us. Kwaheri, we do not know what is going to happen. And it's very, very sad. And they say numbers don't lie. So soon enough, there will be nobody
to lend to the government.
Remember that this government had initially adopted a strategy of borrowing locally, saying that we will not be like our predecessor, we will not go to borrow abroad, we will borrow locally. So things are looking very hard. They have gone to even those countries like China, which they had said they would never borrow from. So the realities are hitting home real quick.
So stop borrowing.
But why are we borrowing? We are borrowing And yesterday, I like the narrative that the controller of budget gave. Tunafuliza ndio tuende kwa bar tukunywe pombe. The Kenyan government is on fuliza. And after you fuliza, it's not that you're fulizaing to pay school fees, to start a biashara. No, you're fulizaing to go on a spendthrift, to piga sherehe, so to speak. If you look at just how much money the government is spending on fuel, refurbishment of offices, apart from the fact of proliferation of offices that are meaningless to Kenyans. I mean, so we are saying, just stop
borrowing.
This whole borrowing spree and come back home and think through the debt strategy.
That's number 3.
70% of our debt, of our foreign debt, is dollar denominated. Now, I'll give you an example of Kenya Airways. Kenya Airways went and borrowed it must have been 79.5 billion
Kenya
shillings. No, in USD. Right?
75 billion.
No. Converted in Kenya shillings, it's 79.5 billion.
79 billion worth of
USD.
Okay.
Right? About a year ago. We paid 2.4 billion shillings. Today, the loan stands at 89.5 billion. After paying 2.4 billion. You know what has happened? The exchange rates have done us in. So Kenya's debt, which 70% is dollar denominated, is going through that Kenya Airways story, that our debt continues to increase. So what we can do before we deal with the interest rates is to fast cap the borrowing, right?
Okay.
I hope we are together with that.
We are together.
Right? I am. We will move from borrowing and now go to what is happening even in the devolved units. Currently, 727 billion pending bills. We have 727 billion pending bills. Never mind some of them, I've been in the devolved units. I can tell you whenever governments are switching, whenever there's a transition, there are these bills that quickly come in to be paid by the next governor. And so therefore, especially legal fees, by the way, is one that really benefits from those transitions. And so we have to really find out how many of these spending bills are actually work that was done and delivered. But if this money, for instance, was released to the market, it would spur economic activity and go back to my question and my hypothesis on yielding incomes, right? All right. There is a loophole that we have seen in Article 223, which is on supplementary appropriation. This is a loophole that is used by national government and by all accounting officers to use money
to spend money without authority.
And then account for it later because it's in the law, it's acceptable, and and one of the things we are saying is that we must amend, even if it is a PFM Act, so that we have stringent procedures on how to go about, for instance, disaster management. We say there is El Nino. Money is put aside. Money has gone. Now we don't have El Nino. We don't have the money. Where do we go?
Yes.
And also, they're covered by the Constitution. Where do we go? So we need, the legislative action for that. For the pending bills, I know that we have the prompt payment bill that's been someplace in Parliament, just doing its round, and we are calling, for quick enactment of that bill. Now, there is, over the years, we have seen poor choices and poor forecasts on, like I said, on revenues and on expenditure. That's got to come to an end. By the living within our means is no
longer an option.
It's no longer an option. It's just what we have to do.
These things that you're saying must happen.
Yes.
Dr. Karugu, when Siti was saying we've had these things before.
Yes.
All these stories,
yes,
we've heard them before.
I am sure.
Right? And all these stories have been told of this government. They were told of the previous government.
Right.
But they didn't seem to listen.
Good.
Why doesn't it listen? Now, Azimio,
yes, the
partner parties of Azimio include ODM, Jubilee, DAP Kenya, NAC Kenya, and others. Jubilee, DAP Kenya, they were in that government that was doing all these things. That was increasing annual budget by over 500 billion shillings annually for 9 years, We left us at 3.2 trillion shillings. That was borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and ending up in the bar drinking most of it. That was not prudently managing our finances. Those are the ones that are advising this government now. And we expect that they're going to have a commonality of purpose that will benefit us Kenyans.
And considering that very many people in this current government who also happen to be in their majority party were also in Jubilee.
Yes.
In fact, that's what I wanted to correct.
But the same.
My friend Latif. There are people. If there is a proportion of this country that has never been in government, it is that sits in Azimio. Azimio has more parties that have not been in government than Kenya Kwanza. Kenya Kwanza are very smart people. All they did is switch positions quickly and hoodwink Kenyans into the next election. But if you look at it, everybody, almost 60% of those who sit in cabinet, making serious policy decisions, were in former parliament or in the parliament. Your own William Ruto was a deputy president.
And deputy party leader.
Yes.
Of Jubilee.
Gachagua was member of parliament. Member. So who is fooling who?
That's the question I'm asking.
So this thing.
That's the basis of my question, Dr. Karugu.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
The people who are sitting across the table as Kenya Kwanza and those that are sitting on this other side of the table as Azimio, same people. Same. Those that will argue and say, we are not in government, all right, you are collaborating in parliament. When budgets were rising from 2017, 2018, 2019, 19, 20, 21, 22, those budgets that were passed in collaboration between the then ruling and the then opposition factions of parliament who are now sitting across each other at the table. And these are the guys on this side are saying, reduce borrowing. You approved borrowing for the last 9 years. You're saying stop overspending. You approved overspending for the last 9 years. They look at you and they're wondering,
True. Let me say this.
It's like somebody with whom you were in the club last night come and tell you stop drinking. You look at somebody and
we're not together.
I know.
In fact, you bought for me
last night. So this is what I want to say about that issue. I think let's separate issues here. If we now go into personalities, and this country will go to the dogs because we will start pointing fingers. But me, I was not there. But then this one was there. I mean, I don't think that is where we should go as a country. Is to establish that we have a problem, and that problem is not because of anyone in particular. It is a problem that has built up over time. So do we sit and start saying it was this? No, it was this. As Azimio, we are saying, these people had a chance to reverse what they thought the other government was not doing right. In fact, they campaigned on the ticket of reversal of those bad decisions. And Kenyans elected them on reversal of those bad decisions, those so-called bad decisions. But what have they done? They have continued with those bad decisions that they were campaigning. So we have found ourselves where we are. How do we get out of the hole? Do we get out of the hole from taking the stance which, for instance, in this national dialogue talks Kenya Kwanza had taken, that listen, we are the ones in charge. You wait for your turn to be in charge. We are in charge. We have a strategy on this issue of cost of living. Let us take Kenyans on this dwindling path and leave us alone. And Azimio stood up and said, which Kenyans? Because Azimio then will need our own country where our people will not be taken through this dwindling path that you want to take your people to. So we had that standoff. And they got to a point that they said, okay. So what are your proposals? So now let's call experts. I was in that meeting yesterday. Unfortunately, the CS Treasury could not come. The CS Energy could not come. Apparently, they're hosting the king. So we're waiting for them to finish hosting the king. And then we're going to hear from Treasury. We're going to hear from the Ministry of Energy on what then are the solutions they have, so that we compare with the solutions we have. But I say unto you that for us in Azimio, the issue of cost of living just has to be dealt with, or we will go back to our people and tell them we did our part. Sasa kazi kwenu, So
is the team going to ask Kenyans? Because when you call the minister for National Treasury and Planning.
Yes.
He's the one who brought the Finance Act bill to the House.
Oh, Eric, you must have missed
Minister
that
for
phase.
Energy,
No, you must have missed that phase, Eric, because Kenyans were invited to submit their views in memorandum. Civil society submitted,
Right.
Azimio submitted, different groups submitted, and they were listened to. In fact, I attended those sessions.
And
thereafter, this is now the process that is happening. That thereafter, after all these views were put together, now they're looking at Kenya Kwanza and asking them, you have had Kenya Association of Manufacturers, you've had KEPSA, you've had, economists, you've had Kenyans. What do you have to say? That is what is currently happening. The controller of budget comes in yesterday and says, listen, I have told these people that we are in a hole. I've cleaned my hands. The Auditor General has spoken. So what does Treasury have to say? What does the Ministry of Energy have to say? What are the issues? Then we will leave the negotiators to retreat and hopefully come up with a solution on cost of living. But because from where we sit, it is not as complicated as everybody. It's only complicated because of egos. Because Kenya Kwanza has promised, and then they're wondering, how do we go back to the people and tell them we will put on hold housing? For instance, the housing issue. Is housing, was the way we are approaching housing, are we treating a housing problem or an unemployment problem? If it's a housing problem, are we going it the right way? If it's an employment problem, are we going it the right way? Simple questions.
Dr. Karugu, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Do I hear you to be saying that if Azimio were in charge and they were the government of the day, and you were in some lofty ministerial position, churning out policies, that you do things differently? Is that what I hear you to be saying?
100% and then some.
All right. Now, are members of Azimio Kenyans? Are they politicians?
Are members of Azimio Kenyans?
Yes.
Members of Azimio are Kenyans.
Are they politicians?
Not all members of Azimio are politicians.
The caucus that is now talking about changes are politicians, are they not? They are the ones who people delegated the power to in one way or the other.
Precisely.
Is that not so?
Precisely.
Yes.
Precisely.
Now, the reason I'm asking this question, I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
And why I ask if they're Kenyans. What guarantee? Because what guarantee is there that when you have a Kenyan politician with power, that they'll do something different?
I know. And I hear where you're coming from. I started this conversation from saying that Kenyans have lost trust. And the greatest indicator that Kenyans have lost trust is what is happening in the stock market. Kenya's stock market is the worst performing. People have no trust. People are speaking and saying, we don't trust you. And it's not easy to trust a Kenyan politician. I will tell you that for free. However, you are the ones who elect them into office. So why do you elect people who you cannot trust? So because you elect people based on how many people attend funerals and how many people attend harambes.
Yes. When we elect them,
you
see, when you have a group of people who at some point determine to abuse the trust that has been given to them, it can't be the fault of the person who gave them that trust. Because that's how this discussion sometimes is framed.
The fault comes in when you re-elect the same people. The same complaints move from Uhuru government was not trustworthy. Then now Ruto government is not trustworthy. So who is the problem here?
Politician.
Who has elected?
It's not.
It's the person who's given the trust and betraying that trust.
Yes. So you see, the converse of this is a situation where you have a country where we actually express our distrust and mistrust. It would not be pleasant. That we have a nation that continues trusting is a very, very good thing.
It's a good thing.
For this ilk, for this group of people we refer to as politicians. And the imagination that this thing has no limit to its elasticity is a false notion. It does have a limit.
Precisely.
Now,
and perhaps that is where we need to get as a country.
Yes.
Where we say,
enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
And can that enough is enough then be bolstered by two quote-unquote warring sides? I say quote-unquote deliberately because one could argue that it's not really a war, right? To say, look, guys, this is where we are, and this is the cry of Kenyans. Because I'm always thinking about the Kenyan who continues to suffer through this thing. Is there consensus on both sides that actually this is something that we really need to come together on and say, let us fix it? Because if there isn't, it would appear that it would be an exercise in futility.
I can't speak about all issues, but I can speak about the issues that are, for instance, in Bomas. And you have had some that they have agreed upon. And you have had some that they are still deliberating, like cost of living, which Kenya Kwanza had said, it is our business. You have no business even giving us ideas. We are the ones in power. Wait for your turn. And we pushed back. So I cannot give a blanket statement if there is goodwill. And in any case, I am not here to hold fort for any politician to speak about how genuine they are. I don't think I can really say that about politicians generally as a blanket, you know. So Muga is giggling because I can't purport to say, you know.
Can't speak for someone else.
I can't speak for anybody else. I can only speak about the agendas that are on the table.
Yep.
To say, so far, there has been sufficient goodwill to canvass the issues. And where there has not been goodwill, we are pushing back. And to assure Kenyans that at such a point that Azimio feels that the issue of cost of living is not addressed in a way that is beneficial to Mwananchi, who went to the streets, who was killed, then we will not be shy of walking out and saying, let this dialogue collapse. And that I say because I know that I have also consulted with the principals and they are of the same thinking.
You know, Dr. Karugu, we have a watershed moment here.
Yeah.
I had rather hoped that you'd be able to speak for other politicians, because then you would give a vote of confidence and you tell us that you actually trust them. That you don't.
Where does it leave the rest of us?
No. You know, I am a Kenyan.
Where are we, really?
Muga, I am a Kenyan just like you. I have walked through the journey of being a Kenyan just like you have. I have been lied to. And you know, women are very trusting. In fact, the people who are hurting most in this country, now if I was going to speak as a chair of Women's League, is women. Because women are very trusting. And we are lied to very often. And that is why campaigns are done based... I mean, the major campaigners, if you want to be a good politician, are women. Even though you go out and say 50%...
Listen to the promises
of
a naked man.
Yes.
50% of our cabinet will be women, 50% will be men. You don't accomplish it. Women still give you that benefit of doubt.
Yeah,
so as a woman, I want to say, of course I have been hurt. Of course I have trusted politicians and they have failed me. And I am no different from other Kenyans. And I feel their pain of the trust, this trust.
Dr. Karugu, you're different. You're not like all other Kenyans. You have a voice, you have a position,
yes,
and you also have had trust placed in you. It's very, very different. And you have had the opportunity to actually represent that trust.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I would not argue with that one bit. But where I was trusted to accomplish tasks, I accomplished those tasks with everything I had, even without a salary. I'm sure you know that. I still went on and I did not go to court.
But then were you paid?
I was paid. Yes, I was paid.
Praise the Lord.
I was paid. I can buy you lunch. Finally, the court ordered that I get paid. So these people will send me a message. Kamushahara kamefika. They need to know that yes, indeed, the court did order, and I was paid. And you know, so that is fine. So if we go back to the real issues of, you know,
imagine our time is up. Dr. Karugu, we need to invite you again.
I think I need to come again. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Before this dialogue is completed,
Yes.
come back and let's actually hear, because the issue that is being canvassed now is the cost of living.
Yes.
And it's an issue that affects everybody.
Right.
Let's talk about it again.
Okay.
Okay?
Fair
it's
enough.
an open invitation and you've said yes to it.
Yes. We will find another day. Thank you.
Dr. Caroline Karugu is a member of the Azimio Economic Council. She is also the chair of the Azimio Women's League. She's been our guest this morning, talking about the cost of living. Where is the solution? What do we need to do as a country? What does the Kenya Kwanza government need to do? What do members of parliament from all political sides need to do? Good morning, 9 a.m.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.